Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we dig through the research so you don't have to. And today, we're diving into the world of AI, specifically in medical imaging.
Exciting stuff.
It really is. We're talking about how to catch potential problems with AI that analyzes those, X-rays, CT scans,
Right.
ideally before they become an issue for patients.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
We got some really interesting excerpts from a research paper. Let's see, it's titled Scalable Drift Monitoring in Medical Imaging AI.
Catchy.
The researchers are tackling this really important question of how do we make sure these AI systems stay accurate over time?
Yeah, it's like, how do you give an algorithm a checkup?
Exactly.
It's a critical question, especially as we're relying more and more on AI in healthcare.
And one of the big challenges they talk about is that, well, the real world, especially in a hospital, things are constantly changing.
Constantly.
And those changes can really mess things up for these AI systems, am I right?
You are.
This paper mentions something called drift. Have you heard of this?
Oh, absolutely. Drift is basically what happens when the data that an AI model is seeing starts to change from the data that it was originally trained on. So imagine an AI. Let's say it's trained to detect pneumonia from chest x-rays. It's doing great.
Working perfectly.
Exactly. But then, let's say a global pandemic hits.
Okay, I see where it's going.
Suddenly, the x-rays look different. There might be more of them, the image quality might be different, or maybe patients are being positioned differently for safety reasons.
Review.
All these things can change what the AI considers a normal chest x-ray.
So it's not necessarily that the AI just breaks down, but it's more like it's looking at the world through a slightly blurry lens.
A great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's really what this research is getting at. This really interesting example, the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on an AI system at Massachusetts General Hospital.
Oh, wow.
So this AI was analyzing chest x-rays, and when the pandemic hit, things got really interesting.
I bet. They mentioned something in the paper about, like, even the types of x-rays they were taking changed.
Absolutely, yeah. Before the pandemic, only about 20% of chest x-rays were taken from a certain angle. It's called anteroposterior, or AP.
Okay.
But during the pandemic, that number jumped to 40%.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It is. And it turns out the way a patient is positioned can have a big impact on these systems.
So how do we even know if this drift is happening? It's not like the AI system flashes a warning sign.
Right, it's definitely more subtle than that.
Yeah.
And that's where this research comes in. They've actually developed this framework called MMC plus ASP, stands for multimodal concordance.
MMC plus FA. Okay, that sounds pretty technical. What does it actually do?
So think of MMC plus like a detective, right?
Yeah.
It's constantly comparing what the AI is doing to, let's say, its original case files.
Okay, I like that.
It looks at everything, the images themselves, the settings on the machines, even patient information. It basically checks, hey, does this still match up with what the AI was initially trained on?
Makes sense.
And if it starts to see the AI, like making connections that seem a bit off, even if it gets the final answer right, MMC Plus will raise a red flag. Kind of like, hey, someone needs to check this out.
So it's not just about did the AI get the right answer, but like was the reasoning still sound?
Exactly. It's about the process.
Yeah.
And to really put this to the test, the researchers, they used a massive data set of real chest x-rays from Massachusetts General Hospital.
Oh, wow. So real world data.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about an 18-month period here, including the start of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, that's a real stress test right there.
Exactly. A real-world scenario.
So they threw all this chaotic data at it, and what did they find? Did it work?
It did. MMC Plus was able to accurately detect that big data shift that happened during the pandemic. But here's where things get really interesting. The AI's performance didn't always get worse with drift.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes it even improved.
Wait, so even when the data's changing and the AI might be using different pathways to get to its conclusions, it can still be more accurate.
It can.
That's kind of impressive, but also a little unsettling, isn't it?
It is. It's a little bit like, imagine your friend aces a trivia night, right?
Okay, yeah.
But they're getting all the answers right for completely wrong reasons.
You'd probably question how they're doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So even when it's working, we still need to know why.
It's like that whole black box problem with AI, right? How are we supposed to trust these systems if we don't fully understand how they're working, even when they get things right?
It's a huge question, and it's something we really have to grapple with as AI becomes more common in healthcare. And I think this research really drives home that need for transparency in AI. It's not just about accuracy.
It's almost like we need to be able to audit the AI's thought process, even if it gets a passing grade in the end, right?
Exactly, yeah. And speaking of things we need to be paying attention to, the paper also mentioned something about metadata and how it all fits into this.
Oh, right. Metadata. So
Right.
that's basically all the extra information that's attached to like an image, right? The date it was taken, what kind of machine they used, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's all those little details. And you might think, well, who cares about that stuff?
Yeah.
But it's actually really important for understanding this whole drift thing.
Really? So it's like the metadata provides the context that the AI might be missing.
That's a good way to put it. Like, remember how we were talking about the proportion of those AP chest x-rays going up during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Well, the researchers were able to spot that trend in the first place because of the metadata. They could actually see that shift happening and then connect it back to, like, oh, the AI is having a harder time now with diagnosing an enlarged heart from these AP images.
It's almost like, I don't know, having a little footnote on the x-ray that explains, hey, we took this one from a different angle than usual because
Right, exactly. Context is key.
that's fascinating. But okay, so this all sounds incredibly complex, and I imagine a lot of our listeners are, working in hospitals, dealing with these systems every day. What does this actually mean for them? Like, what are the practical takeaways here?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we can't just set it and forget it, right?
Hmm.
As AI becomes more and more common in healthcare, it's going to require constant vigilance.
So we can't just assume it's always going to work perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need these really robust monitoring systems like the MMC Plus we were talking about that can constantly keep tabs on things. And just as importantly, we need to make sure there are human experts involved who can step in and investigate if the AI's reasoning seems off.
So it's really about humans and AI working together, not one replacing the other.
100%.
This has been a truly fascinating deep dive. I feel like we've learned so much about this crucial topic. It seems like the future of AI in healthcare isn't just about, building smarter algorithms, but also about making sure those algorithms are reliable and adaptable and transparent.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's going to take a lot of really thoughtful work from everyone involved. The people developing AI, the clinicians using it, even the patients, right?
Right.
We need to make sure everyone understands both the benefits and the limitations of these systems as they evolve.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
It's a continuous journey of learning and improvement. And on that note, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of AI drift in medical imaging. We've learned that this technology has huge potential to improve healthcare, but like any powerful tool, it requires careful attention and responsible use and constant vigilance. If you're interested in learning more about this fascinating topic, be sure to check out the full research paper. We've got a link to it in the show notes. Until next time, stay curious.